WIHS Journal. On today's broadcast, we'll learn about the true story, miraculous story of gunshot witness. It's the Tim Remington story. Join us today on the broadcast for all the details of the miraculous miracle. Well, today in the phone line, we have Amy Joy. Today we'll be talking about gunshot witness, and the amazing testimony is just amazing. And Amy, I'm so glad we got to speak today. Hearing about this shooting that Pastor Tim Remington was gunned down in the parking lot of his church 6 times in the torso and the head and survived. That is just amazing. This is how all the story got to be correlated. It's a complete miracle. So maybe you can talk about the miracle and him surviving. We can go there first.
Oh, it's incredible. It's an incredible story in this. Yes, Tim was shot with .45 caliber hollow points. And I don't know if everybody in the audience knows how huge that is. Hollow point bullets expand when they enter a body, and they usually just tear up somebody's insides. A special forces gentleman that I know said that Tim's body should have just been mush. And yet all the bullets managed to slide around his major organs. None of them exited, because exit wounds are huge and very awful. None of them exited. The bullet that entered his head did not actually touch his brain. It stopped right at the outer lining of his brain. And there was another bullet that was right on target for his heart that went through his jacket and his vest and stopped right at his shirt. So that would have killed him. And that one flattened, and the paramedics found it in his pocket.
Wow.
There are so many miracles involved in this story, and it's just an incredible. It's been a lot of fun for me to research it and find out about it.
Yes, I know. I'm talking with you that you're a media researcher and investigative reporter, which is amazing. So how is he doing now?
He's doing great. He's teaching at his church. It's been a number of years, but that was part of the story, was how has he recovered in the years since the shooting and what has gone on. And he's back to playing the piano, which the physical therapist said he would never be able to do again. But he preaches all the time, and he's got a great sense of humor. He's still in pain in his right arm. He's a lot of pain because he was shot in the brachial plexus, which is a nerve bundle up in your shoulder, and that's caused nerve pain that has never gone away. But he still has an amazing sense of humor. He's an incredible person to talk to.
Wow, just, in the face of evil, was there a motive for the shooting? Did they catch the perpetrator?
Yeah, his name is Kyle Odom. He was somebody who basically identified him as having schizophrenia. He thought that Tim was an alien from Mars, that he was the head of the aliens, and in order to save Earth, he had to shoot Tim and kill him. So that's what Kyle went to do. And of course, Tim is not an alien, and God's protection is very evident.
Wow. So did the local media bring attention to Tim's recovery?
Yes, they did a fantastic job. The Coeur d'Alene Press covered the shooting and also Tim's recovery for months. Up to a year later, they were constantly covering the story. Now,
do you think this book can appeal to Christians and non-Christians?
Well, absolutely, because it's really a story of hope. Most people believe in God, right? And it shows that God really does care about people. There's more to the story than just Tim's survival. The story also, I wanted to answer the question, why Tim? Let's say Satan put a bullseye on Tim Remington. Why would that be? And so I started finding out about his life and his ministry. And there's all these people. He's got an incredible drug rehabilitation ministry that he's started. And there's just people all in his life that have been just wonderfully rescued from terrible situations. Alcoholics and drug addicts and abuse victims. And those are the people that surround him. And so the story is a little bit about them, too. And the mercy of God is just so incredible. It's a story of hope for anybody and everybody.
Yes. Well, if you're just tuning in right now, I'm speaking to Amy Joy. We're talking about the book, The Gunshot Witness. And Amy, how come Tim's story is so important to you?
Well, to me, it's important because I want to know, me personally, I want to know that God is real and still working in this world today. There's so much stress out there. There's the situation in Israel and COVID and wars and famines and earthquakes. I want to know that God is really still working in human lives and that we can depend on him. And so this story is really encouraging to me personally because it shows the power of God still working in human lives. And that was something that I really enjoyed learning more about.
Yeah, describing the bullets, because I don't really know much about that, but that is just so amazing how big they were and that God still kept them is what's amazing.
Yeah. In fact, there was a point where one of the officers who came to the scene, one of the first responders, thought that Tim was like a pitcher who got poured out because the blood around him, there's so much blood. And when he went to the hospital, they had to give him 9 pints of blood, which is ridiculous. The adult human only has 10 to 13 pints of blood. And if you lose more than 40% of your blood, there's nothing in the veins to pump, right? So you just bleed out and you die. And Tim amazingly stayed alive and was able to get to the hospital and survive and all the surgeries. Yeah. It's remarkable.
What is the most important message this book offers?
What is the most important message this book offers? That if you trust God with all your heart, then your life is going to be in his hands. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to get something bad's not going to happen to you. Bad things happen in this world. But that God's going to protect you and look out for you through it. I lost my husband when I was 34. I have 3 young children, and even though I lost my husband, God looked out for me and protected me and took care of me and provided for me. And I think that this story really gets that across. I really want people to read the book, Anissa, because I just think it's such an incredible story of hope and encouragement for people.
I can't imagine. So after the shooting, how much rehab was he in intensive care? Like, how long was his hospital stay?
I forgot off. He was in for several weeks, and then he just wanted to go home. And they asked the nurses and the hospital staff, if my wife Cindy can do everything that the nurses would do, can you send me home? And they did, and she changed out his IVs. He had to have a colostomy bag for a little while. She changed that out. She would get up with him several times in the middle of the night. But he was able to go home after a few weeks. But it was about 4 months later, I think. Awesome. I'd have to check on that. But about 4 months later when he started preaching again.
Wow, that is awesome.
From a wheelchair at first.
Yeah, just the progress and everything. So tell us about your ambitions for the future. What kind of writing do you plan on doing in the future?
Well, I'm interested in miracle stories because you don't know this. I am a scientist. I actually have a degree in chemistry and a master's in biology. And as a scientist, I live in a world of scientists, and we feel like there's no miracles anymore today. And everybody looks at everything through these eyes that are always trying to find the naturalistic explanations for things. But sometimes things just plain defy naturalistic explanations. And so I've got a series called Science and Wonders. Instead of Signs and Wonders, it's Science and Wonders, that talks about my time as a university student and the miracles that God did between me and my fellow students and my professors. And I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't looking for it. I was just trying to, learn about geology and chemistry and physics. That's something else I'm working on. So much out there, and I'm sorry.
That's awesome. So tell our listeners the name of the book and how they can get a copy of the story's intriguing.
It's called Gunshot Witness, like GSW, like gunshot wound, but it's Gunshot Witness, the Tim Remington story. They can find it at gunshotwitness.com, which currently redirects to the Amazon page.
Once again on the broadcast was Amy Joy talking about the book, The True Story of Survival of a Miracle. Gunshot Witness, the Tim Remington story. For more details, you can call WIHS at 860-346-1049. I'm Anissa Porticelli for News and Public Affairs.